Hello and welcome to the first ever episode of Kentucky Route 5.
That's right. It's Kentucky Route 5, where two guys who have only ever briefly been to Kentucky talk about things they like.
Yeah, I put my face up there. Yes, this podcast, we should talk about what it's about, because this is our first episode and people have not seen it, and hypothetically someone in chat forgot what the podcast is about, but I'm just saying possibly. So, this podcast is all about, this podcast specifically, we talk about our top 5 of something. I bring my top 5 of something, Chris brings his top 5 of something, and, we
together
discuss...
a top 10.
But we don't call it that, because it's not. Right. It's Kentucky Route 5. Because that's a real road inside of Kentucky. Look at the cleverness of us. Ooh.
Look at us being
it's
smart.
Nowhere near where in Kentucky we've been, but that's a whole different discussion for a different day. So today we're going to be talking about our top 5 favorite comedy movies.
That's right.
And we're gonna start off with Chris's top 5 list.
And
no pressure.
If you don't mind, I would like to preface.
Okay.
Because I feel like it's worth noting, despite being two entertainers on Twitch and being self-proclaimed funny men, I really don't enjoy comedy movies that much, and so.
You say that, but we literally discussed this yesterday, how, you just forget that you do, because there's so many movies that I brought up that you're like, oh yeah, I do like that.
I moderately enjoy comedy.
Okay.
It's never like a genre that I'm, seeking out to watch.
That's fair. That's fair.
But yeah, just a preface, a warning, in case you hate all of my choices.
Which is fair, and there will definitely be some choices on here that I will probably argue. But we'll get to those when we get to them. Let's start with your number 5, Chris. I'm going to pop it up on the screen right now. It's a doozy. Here we go.
All right.
Talk about it.
What?
Talk about it. Yeah, talk about it.
Yeah, so...
I haven't seen this movie. I can't add anything into this one.
A nice, strong start with American Psycho. Now, you might be wondering... Why did you put American Psycho as your 5th favorite comedy movie? And that is an excellent question.
Yeah.
I would say conventionally, most people probably wouldn't think of it as a comedy movie. And I would say that in most conventions, it's not necessarily a comedy movie. It's more of a horror thriller.
Hey, IMDb does consider it a comedy movie, though. Because when I was sent this list, I thought Chris was crazy. And I went and looked at IMDb, and it was confirmed that Chris might only be a little crazy, not super crazy on this one.
I might be an American Psycho.
Oh, roll credits.
All right, and that's it, boys.
That's the first episode.
I hope you enjoyed the podcast. But no, it really does have, all these elements of very dark comedy, and as you can see from my aesthetic, I very much enjoy dark things.
Yeah.
And so the sense and style of comedy in this movie, the way it's executed, is pretty good. So the basis of this movie, our main character. Our main protagonist, who also happens to be our main antagonist, is one Patrick Bateman, who is a complete sociopath. And
I feel like he's probably a psychopath, based off the title. Or is this movie mistitled?
Valid. No, okay. I don't think so. Well, yeah, I don't know. The lines between psycho and sociopath they're distinct, but I don't feel like I'm, well educated enough in that field to.
We'll leave that to canceled YouTubers.
Yes. One cat man, if you will.
Yeah, good old cat man who liked to wear blackface. That's a whole different story. Ironically, none of the things he got canceled for.
But you follow Patrick Bateman, who is this guy who's kind of obsessed with this idea of like achieving perfection in his not in just his life, but like the way he looks. Like everything has to be perfect, but it's all just a facade, right? And he's putting it on for everyone else. And during the entirety of this movie, you get Patrick Bateman narrating all his thoughts, and so as he's washing his hair, you get to hear him describe just oh god all the certain like shampoos he's using and why he's doing it, and like his facial cleanser, and you're just sitting there just in awe, just like what this guy is just absolutely nuts, just right off rip. And there's plenty of great examples in this movie. That's just literally the intro is him, getting ready for the day. But there's a few scenes in this movie, and if you haven't seen this movie, if you are over 18 and you like thriller/horrors, and you don't mind dark comedy, and you don't mind dark comedy, highly recommended. Absolutely wild. But there is, and I should also preface this by saying that I went into watching this movie anticipating a horror thriller, because that is my thing. That is what I love. Had literally no expectations to laugh at this movie. Like zero. But I think it is one of the few movies that I have watched alone and laughed out loud not once, not twice, but 3 times.
That's 3.
And I think it's because just some of the scenes are so absurd. So for those of you who have seen it, you'll recognize the scene I'm about to talk about. It's pretty iconic. But it's Patrick Bateman, and he's kind of a big shot, kind of white collar guy, big into business. I can't remember what is his title. I think he does like stocks. He's a banking executive, investment banking executive. And so, all of his coworkers and friends are kind of hoity-toity. They're comparing their suits, all this stuff. And so there's this scene where they're all sitting around comparing business cards. And it's just so great, right? Because you're sitting there looking at it, and Bateman lays out his business card, and everyone's like, because they're all trying to one up each other, right? So he lays out his business card, and it's an off-white business card with black text on it, in like a nice font, and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, is that ivory? Is that an ivory? Oh my gosh, that's beautiful." And then the guy next to him lays out his business card, and everyone's just like, oh my gosh, it's beautiful. Look at the... And Bateman's just sitting there inside his head, just like, I can't believe this man. His business card is so beautiful. It's so much better than mine. And the entire scene, you're just looking at they're almost identical. Just almost identical. And so the differences between the card to like, the average Joe Schmo is that's an off-white business card. Okay. That's great. But Bateman's just like, he's losing his mind. And there's a later scene where I believe the same guy, he's taking him home because he's like, this is the nail in the coffin. This guy just like keeps one-upping him, and so he takes him out to dinner, and then he takes him home to his apartment to like hang out under the guise that they're gonna be friends. And this man's name is Paul, one of his coworkers, and he turns on Huey Lewis in the news while he's like pretending to pour drinks. And he, like, the entire time you've got Huey Lewis in the news playing in the background, and Patrick Bateman, played by Christian Bale, is literally just throwing on a raincoat and grabbing just this super shiny polished axe and just walks up behind him and is just, "Hey, Paul, you ever heard of Huey Lewis in the News?" And just chucks the axe right into the back of his head. And I was just... it feels like a point where I shouldn't have just laughed out loud, but how casually everything happened, I think the absurdity of it all just really threw me off guard. And that really got me. It really got me. And there's some other scenes in the movie which are very much absurd, because Bateman is definitely like textbook narcissist. And so there's a scene where he takes a lady home, and he is they're doing what mommy corn and daddy corns do. But because he's such a narcissist, he's got these giant mirrors posted on his wall and on the ceiling of his room. And the entire time, he's just flexing. And it made me so uncomfortable that I, again, burst out laughing. And it's just scenes like these, and just like seeing into the mind of this guy who's just so completely out of touch with reality that, yeah, I love it. Definitely not your traditional comedy.
Definitely
if you were faint
like
of heart, no, it is not. And honestly, after I watched it, I felt bad at laughing at the parts that I did, but it's just so absurd. But it is a good movie. It is a good movie. I would recommend watching it, but again, not for the faint of heart, by any means.
Fair.
So yeah, that's my number 5 favorite comedy movie.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's go to your number 4. Oh, yeah, that's a very traditional comedy.
Ah, yes, the number 4 is The Mask with Jim Carrey. And I had a hard time deciding whether my number 4 would be The Mask or Bruce Almighty. Because honestly, Jim Carrey is a comedy icon for me. Love him. Just his physical embodiment in any role he plays, especially in a comedy movie, just because he's so like very energetic and lively. And like in The Mask, I think he is perfectly cast for the main character.
And Jim Carrey himself is like a literal cartoon character in living person.
He really is.
So he's perfect for this role of like half cartoon.
He really is. It's kind of wild. But yeah, what do you know? Another bank guy, boring, plain old bank man, Stanley Ipkiss. But he finds a mask. You know the story, unless of course you don't. In which case, the story is he finds the mask and he literally turns into this like animatic, like chaos demigod, right? Something like that.
Oh, it sounds right. I mean, doesn't he deal with like Loki in it, or is that
is
that the crappy sequel?
So they establish, I believe, that the mask was made by Loki.
Okay.
And in the original movie, that's kind of where they leave it.
Okay, yeah.
They did make a crappy sequel, The Mask 2, Son of the Mask.
It wasn't called The Mask.
Don't watch
it. Was just called Son of Mask.
Son of Mask?
Or Son of the Mask, maybe, but it definitely wasn't Mask 2.
You're right. You are right.
I am a movie. I own it because I bought The Mask and they came in a 2-pack.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you have to own that. It belongs in a landfill. Thank goodness it isn't. But, you know. Terrible movies. Anyways, what's not a terrible movie is the first one.
Is The Mask, yeah.
Yeah. Man, I don't know what to say about it except for that Jim Carrey is like at his peak as a super animated, super like wacky, goofy character in like every time a joke is made, it hits. Well, maybe not every time a joke is made, it hits, but most of the time, it hits pretty well. And the wacky cartoon antics that happen, despite being dated by the 1999 CGI, 1994 CGI, is still it holds up okay, honestly. Holds up pretty okay. But yeah, you really like, or well, I don't want to say you learn to like, but you can't help but like, I feel like is the right way to say it. Okay. The Mask character, right?
Unless you hate Jim Carrey.
Unless you hate Jim Carrey.
Because there are definitely people who don't like Jim Carrey, and I understand it. Like, I like Jim Carrey's work, but he's one of those people, like, kind of like Will Ferrell is also one of those people where it's like, they play very similar characters and everything, and if you don't like that character, it can be hard to watch them play anything.
That's fair. That is fair. But yeah. The Mask is my number 4 pick, was kind of just me saying that I really love Jim Carrey as a comedy actor, and that I feel like this is where he shines the best. It definitely feels like the role was made for him. The movie, it definitely wasn't written for him, but I feel like, I'm sure some of those lines were improvised.
Oh, I'm sure.
And they had, it's just Jim Carrey masterpiece.
That's a different show.
Oh, you're right. Which we'll talk about later.
That's a tease for that they probably don't even remember or get, and it's fine. All right.
Also, feel free to interject, Austin, on any points I make here.
I haven't seen The Mask in so long. All I can say is I remember liking it.
Yeah.
And I had never seen, I have never seen American Psycho. I will. When it's a movie I know enough about, I will definitely jump in.
Like my number 3?
Well, maybe. Well, I forgot what it was. Oh, yeah.
Well, throw her up there.
Oh, yeah. Well, there it is. Number 3.
Number 3. Deadpool 2.
It's a really good movie.
So this is another one that the main character, Ryan Reynolds, I have very much a strong affinity for. Not gonna lie.
He's a very funny man.
But I do love Ryan Reynolds. Hilarious. The comedy, just like everything he says kind of just flows naturally, and
you just can't help but like him. Like in pretty much every role he's in. Like we might get to a role of his later when we get to my list where you shouldn't like him, but you still do.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's such a tease for later in this video.
Guy. It's wild. So anyways, yeah, Deadpool 2.
He's also beautiful. I mean, let's just talk about Ryan Reynolds for a little bit longer.
Honestly, I could turn my number 3 into just
Can this just be the Ryan Reynolds podcast? Can we drop everything else and just talk about Ryan Reynolds movies?
Here's where I love Ryan Reynolds, and if I could, I would marry him and be his straight life partner.
But let's be real, neither of us can compete with Blake Lively.
No way. She's gorgeous. Also, my coffee smells amazing.
So talk about Deadpool 2, because you haven't talked about anything that happened, or in it, or about it, or why you like this movie.
Yeah, so it was a strong competition whether I was going to put Deadpool 1 or Deadpool 2 in my top 5.
And I think you made a horrible mistake.
Like I put both. I really don't feel like I did. As much as I love the first Deadpool movie, I feel like, and you can debate me on this after I've made this point, is that the dynamic between all the characters in Deadpool 2, I feel they really hit the stride, like between Cable and Deadpool, between Domino and Deadpool, all of the disposable characters, spoilers, what is it, the X Squad?
X-Force, probably. That's, I think X-Force is the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, they assemble the X-Force, and literally in the scene after they manage to assemble the X-Force, all of them die. which is hilarious.
It is
that entire scene is just hilarious.
Is it Tom Cruise or Brad Pitt who's in this movie for like 2 seconds?
It's Brad Pitt,
Okay.
and what's great about this casting choice is they cast Brad Pitt as the invisible character. So unless you like know that it's Brad Pitt, you're not gonna automatically associate that voice with, oh yeah, that's Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
That's one of the most well-known male actors out there. Just casually cast in a movie to die like maybe 5 seconds later with 2 voice lines, which is hilarious. And I think it was literally like Ryan Reynolds reached out to Brad Pitt.
I think that sounds right.
Wanted him to play this role specifically.
Yeah.
And Brad Pitt was just like, yeah, right. For you, Ryan? Yeah, I'll do it. Which I just love that. But yeah, I did also discover that I have a huge crush on Zazie Beetz, who plays Domino. And I really liked her character in that movie as well.
Okay.
Well, she's got a really cool superpower that kind of blends well.
I don't know. I feel like I honestly didn't like her superpower. Like I feel like it's a lazy power for writing's sake.
I mean,
and don't get me wrong, it's not this
from
movie's fault. It's the comics' fault.
Right.
She's existed in the comics first. But it's such a lazy, like, kind of undefined power that you can kind of do whatever you need with it.
Exactly.
That's lazy.
And what they did with it in the movie felt really cool.
That's fair. That's fair. I do remember. Here's the thing. I want to now preface my point earlier when I said I think you made a horrible mistake. I think Deadpool 2 is a really good movie. I just remembered walking out of Deadpool 2 being like, well, that wasn't as good as Deadpool 1. That was my opinion on this movie. Was just like, it was good, but it didn't hit what I felt the first Deadpool hit. Which might have been because I was expecting less out of Deadpool when it first came out, and then it delivered. I don't know, but maybe it was my hopes were too high because of Deadpool. But I'll be honest, I haven't watched either movie in a while, but I remember coming out of Deadpool 2 being like, well, that wasn't as good as Deadpool 1. Still enjoyed it. Still laughed my butt off. It's great. Like everything you've said, I'm like, yeah, that's a good point. That's a true point. Yeah. Except for the Zazie Beetz superpower thing. I completely disagree on that. But in general, I'm like, yeah, no, this movie is great. They do have great chemistry with all the characters. Great comedic things. Like, sure.
Yeah.
I'm a Deadpool 1 guy.
The chemistry between Ryan Reynolds and Thanos. Love it. Which, yeah, Josh Brolin is not only Thanos, but he is also Cable in the MCU. So
technically, Deadpool's not in the MCU yet.
Yeah, but yeah, is really just the key word there.
Also, technically, it was kind of left off where Cable could be gone in a Deadpool 3, so they might not have to. Modern Marvel, MCU Marvel might choose to stay away from casting him as 2 characters.
But yeah, to make the point about Deadpool versus Deadpool 2, I feel like Deadpool, while it may have been a better movie overall, as a comedy movie,
that's fair.
I enjoyed Deadpool 2 more.
Okay.
With those dynamics, the chemistry between the characters, the jokes that are made, the way that Deadpool kind of ends up the butt of most of the jokes. Because I feel like in the first Deadpool, he had all the last laughs because he's really witty. It's just a real smart aleck, if you will. But yeah, all of the cast that he interacts with in Deadpool 2 really makes him fight for it, and it really makes some fun interactions that I really enjoyed. I don't rewatch most movies, because my memory is a little too good. So like once I start watching a movie, I start recalling literally everything. I'm like, oh yeah, this is about to happen, and then this is about to happen, and this is about to happen. Which is like, for me, what I enjoy about movies is not necessarily knowing what's about to happen next. But Deadpool 2 is a movie I would rewatch. Same with Deadpool 1, honestly. But Very fun, very enjoyable. Had a blast. Um, so yeah, that's all I got to say about Deadpool 2.
That's fair.
Love Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds is
Master.
a beautiful man, and also good at his acting.
Yes, very good.
All right, Chris, you ready? Number 2.
Number 2
Ooh,
is Game Night, starring Jason Bateman, not to be confused with Patrick Bateman.
I don't think anyone did, but okay.
Yeah, no. Very, very different people.
One's real, one's not. You know, there's that.
Yeah,
that's a big start.
And Jason Bateman is, I think, one of my favorite comedic actors. Very contrary to what I usually prefer. Your Jim Carreys, your Ryan Reynolds, your very funny guys who are always setting up the jokes and knocking them down with punchlines.
Jason Bateman is a really good straight man, yeah.
He is an excellent straight man. And like that, I mean, it's his character in pretty much every movie. But the way like the scripts are written and the way that he acts in the movies, it works exceedingly well, I think, for him.
We saw this movie in theaters together. Oh,
we did.
I'm sorry.
We did. Yeah, me and Austin saw this movie together, literally just on a whim.
Yeah.
I was like, it's a comedy movie. But it's got Jason Bateman. We went and watched it, and I really had just zero expectations for it, which I feel like is a grounds for me to really just enjoy a lot of movies. Because I feel
almost like you're kind of an egotistical jerk, so you have to, center yourself.
Dare you?
I mean, I feel like you're kind of snobbish when it comes to some of the things you enjoy and how you enjoy them media-wise.
I'm definitely snobbish with movies. No, I'll admit that for sure. And that's kind of, I mean, movies are like one of the things I really enjoy, and so yeah, I'm very snobby about movies, but yeah, Game Night really kind of hit me out of the blue. So the premise of this movie is that Jason Bateman and his wife, played by what's her name?
Rachel McAdams.
Rachel McAdams, yeah.
I only know that because it's literally on my screen.
Are invited to a game night with one of their game nights with one of their rich friends, and there's kind of this big payout, and then you find out later that maybe there's crime involved, and it kind of turns into this survival horror a little bit,
kind of,
oddly enough.
Yeah.
But during
we won't fully explain the twist, but and by even saying that now, you're gonna be looking for it. But I feel like even looking for a twist, you won't see it in this one, because it really did feel so out of left field when it finally hit. Like in a good way, in a great way. Like it was perfect. Like it completely okay, that's
The whole movie, honestly, is kind of just a roller coaster ride where you're not really expecting what's coming next until it hits, and you're just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then a twist hits, and you're like, okay, maybe, yeah, I kind of saw that coming. And then when the twist hits, it really just kind of sends you for a loop.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a lot of chaotic, manic insanity. Hilarious. Definitely laughed quite a bit. And there's again some pretty good dark humor in this one as well. Yeah. I watched it the one time. I can't say I remember a whole bunch, but I remember very much enjoying this movie.
Yeah.
Walking away very pleasantly pleased.
Yeah.
Highly recommend this one for sure.
It's definitely one of the better comedies of the last 5-10 years for sure.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree, and a comedy that is geared to be a comedy, not primarily something else with comedic hints in it.
And also it's very much a standalone story as well, which a lot of times you don't get these days anymore. All right, Chris, time to talk about your number one.
All right. here's my number one. It's the voices, and would you look at that? It's Ryan Reynolds again. Love that man. But yeah, I'm not gonna gush about Ryan Reynolds for another 30 minutes again. So this is another very dark comedy. I would even say this might be, might qualify this as a dark rom-com.
Okay.
So it centers around a very mentally unhinged, but like insanely likable factory worker.
Okay.
And the factory he works at, he's got like a couple of workplace crushes, but he's very socially awkward and is someone who is insanely socially awkward and just has a very hard time interacting with strangers at all. I identified with his character, which is maybe not so great to say about, someone who's mentally unhinged. But like the character himself is just super polite, super nice. But then, he goes home from work after his shift, and his pets start to talk to him. And this is where things start to kind of unravel a little bit. And so his pets start to suggest some things to him. And they're not so great things. And the interactions between him and his pets are pretty funny. So he's got a dog and a cat. And his dog is this kind of dopey... I think you should go for it. You're a nice guy. I'm sure she'll love you. And the cat's kind of this, not kind of. He's a jerk. It's very much the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other shoulder. But instead he's schizophrenic, and his pets talk to him. And his cat is like, "Oh no, these girls will never love you." And you should give up, and instead you should do things. And I'll let you guys watch the movie. I would recommend this movie. Another one, not for the light of heart.
I will say, Chris, if they're watching the video, they will see him holding a bloody axe with the subtitle "Hearing voices can be murder." So they might figure out what he might do.
Maybe murder some people.
I like that you try to not spoil something like that, but it's also very, very clear by the poster what might happen in this movie.
But the whole time, you're kind of torn, because even like when he's murdering people, he's still such a likable character. But you can tell that he's just so detached from like his own sanity. It's a wild ride. Also, Anna Kendrick is in it, who I absolutely love.
She's fun most of the time.
She's a very pleasant actress, especially in comedy movies. Very light and bubbly, and during the entire course of this movie, she remains to be so. And there's some very dark but kind of funny moments with her. I'll let you guys figure that out as you watch. But yeah, another sleeper hit for me, honestly. Literally discovered this one while just scrolling through Netflix one night. Again, looking for a horror movie because I have problems.
Yes.
But yeah, really surprised me. Very bright aesthetic and like very bright tones for the majority of the movie, and definitely has very masterfully executed comedic moments and elements.
Okay.
But yeah, would recommend it. Would absolutely watch.
It's fair. I wanted to watch this before stream, but I did not have time.
It's so I will give credit where credit is due. Austin did watch all of the movies on his list.
Not all of them. I didn't get to finish number 5. I didn't get to fully finish number 5.
And so he really he prepped quite.
But now watch me have worse discussions than Chris.
Yeah, I unfortunately I did have to work, and so I didn't have time to watch all of my movies.
Having a job, what a loser.
Yeah, it kind of sucks, honestly. I'm over it. It's overrated.
All right. You know, speaking of my list, it's my time to talk.
Oh my gosh!
But also, I think Chris has seen more of the movies on my list than I have his, which means he might actually be able to, join the conversation better than I did for him.
Yeah, I might have things to say.
Oh. Let's start with number 5. It's Anchorman: The Legend of Ron Burgundy. I mean, I'm trying to figure out how to even start talking about Anchorman. Anchorman is just fun. It's just such every character in it is just so absurd in the best way possible.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think the least entertaining character in it might be Ron Burgundy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think he.
Well, I mean, it might be. I forgot her name, even though I literally watched this movie earlier today. But the female lead might be less interesting.
The romantic interest?
Yeah. It's Christina Applegate's the actress. I cannot remember the character's name.
Fair.
But yeah, I watched the movie literally 30 minutes ago. Well, when we started.
Yeah. 30 minutes before we hopped on call together.
Yeah. So, the general idea of this movie is you have this character of Ron Burgundy, who's a kind of an idiot, super conceited guy who's an anchorman for a local San Diego news station. And it's just, I mean, really. And then there's this, and they have the other characters. You have the best character, which is probably Brick. Brick's the best. He's the weatherman.
Yeah.
He's
Also, can we talk about the master cast they have for this entire movie?
Yeah, Brick is played by Steve Carell. And honestly, a character, even though it's one of my favorite characters in the movie, also might technically not hold up due to one throwaway line in it.
I love lamp. Yeah.
No. There's a line where they say that years later I'll find out that I'm mentally retarded, and it's ooh, if you would have never said what his issue was and just played him off as stupid, it'd be cool. But the second you make the character be special needs, you're making it questionable.
Yeah, that's fair. That's pretty fair.
It kind of sucks because the character is so fun. The I Love Lamp, him talking about how he killed the guy in the fight. He's got some of the best lines in the movie.
Yeah.
But then you have that moment where that's a completely able actor playing a character with special needs by what the script now says. So that's questionable. So we'll move on from him. Some of the other secondary characters we have Champ, who I don't remember who he's played by. I don't remember his name. I feel bad.
Champ, Paul Rudd?
No. He's the other guy.
Okay.
I don't remember Paul Rudd's character name, so if you go to the IMDb real quick, well, I'll talk about, more. I'll talk about... you got Champ, who we'll tell you his name in a second. He's just the most chauvinistic character you could write.
Yeah, David Cockner.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, he's just such a chauvinist pig, which honestly they kind of all are, but he's the worst somehow of a cast of really unlikable characters but also amazing characters. It's a weird movie. It really is. It's really weird. He also might be in love with Ron Burgundy. That's kind of, teased throughout the movie.
Yeah, a little bit of a man crush.
Yeah, then we got, the last member of, the main... He does... Champ does sports. Then we go to... what's Paul Rudd's character's name?
Brian Fontana.
Ah, yes, Brian Fontana.
Brian Fantana.
Fantana. Brian.
Fantana.
Good old Brian.
Do you want a fan?
Paul Rudd, who's just... He's like Ryan Reynolds. He's a gem of a man. He's...
Honestly,
great in literally every role he's ever been put in, and he does a great job in this character, who I would describe as a chauvinistic pig. but like different.
Chauvinistic pig mixed with a like golden retriever.
Yeah, but it's different than somehow the like I would argue like him, Ron, and Champ are all could be described as just chauvinistic pigs, but they all three actors played in such a different way.
Yeah, because they're all. So this takes place in 1970s. Yeah.
That sounds right, or early '80s, one of the two.
Yeah, early 80s, 1970s, and so they're all kind of this stereotypical trope of 1970s men.
Specifically, like men in business, which is like it was a boys' club, like no girls allowed. Men are important. Women are there to make babies. Is kind of a lot of their reactions towards women throughout this movie. But it's,
Yeah.
I want to preface by saying that none of these characters throughout this movie feel like they're in the right. It's not like this movie is like glorifying those people. It's these all of them are idiots and portrayed as such.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels like the way they wrote all the like the chauvinistic guys in the movie, they also feel like they could be like 6th grade boys.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
Talking to each other in the locker room. Not to quote any Donald Trump quotes about locker room talk, but yeah, literally just 6th grade boys going ha 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 ha, girls dumb, boys cool. Yeah, they hit the nail on the head on that one.
Yeah, no, they did. And so just back to the general plot, because I had to explain who the characters were to give you the plot, because most of this movie doesn't care about the plot, it's just kind of the characters and situations as it goes on. The general plot is Ron Burgundy, he's like the cock of the walk, he's the best of the best, everyone loves him, until Christina Applegate's character, who, I don't remember her name, whatever, doesn't matter.
Veronica.
I thought it might be Veronica, but I didn't want to say that. Because then there's also a character in a different movie on my list that's named Veronica, and I couldn't remember if I was mixing up the names.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. But yeah, Veronica, she comes into town. She's a girl coming into the man's world, and she wants to be an anchor woman someday. And, like, that's her goal. And she eventually falls in love with Ron, and eventually they fall out of love. She causes Ron to lose his job. Then he saves the day, kind of. It's a weird movie, but it's a fun movie. And really, the plot isn't why you watch this movie. You watch this movie. If you like any of those actors, they're doing their best to play some weird characters that you'll probably enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah, the plot takes a backseat to all the characters in this movie. Also, While we're on it, let me just read you some of the cast, some of the other supporting cast in this movie, because God bless, it is star-studded. So you got Judd Apatow, you got Fred Willard, you got Seth Rogen, who makes an appearance.
He just plays a camera guy.
Yeah. Ben Stiller also makes an appearance.
Jack Black plays a biker.
He sure does. Fred Armisen, who's hilarious, makes an appearance. There's just Oh, hey, Jim Carrey plays an actual CBC newscaster.
I don't remember that, but I'm not surprised it happened because there's everyone in this movie. It's a great movie. There's a lot of absurdness. There's a lot of fun, quotable, scenes. There's a lot of meme-worthy things. I mean, what would the internet be without the "that escalated quickly" meme? And we have Anchorman to thank for that. So
old dead memes to be certain, but
that's one of those dead memes though that will always come back, and everyone from our generation will be like, maybe give like a little and move on with their life if they saw it in like 2 years from now. You'll get like, cool, which is all memes ever deserve is a cool.
Well, sometimes I get a sharp exhale through my nose.
Well, that's fair. That is fair. All right, let's move on. Let's move on from Anchorman. I feel like I didn't do that. I feel like I didn't do Anchorman justice, but also I hadn't watched it in a long time, and I'll be honest, it wasn't supposed to be on this list. I had a different movie that was supposed to be on this list that I won't even say what it is because it doesn't deserve credit, but it didn't hold up. I thought it was really funny, but it's one of those movies that like tried to be edgy back in a while ago, which means it's even worse now because it just doesn't land.
Yeah. But no, I feel like you did Anchorman I feel like you did.
Okay.
Justice.
All right. Well, we'll
I feel like I didn't do justice for some of my movies, honestly. But some
right.
of the movies are just like beautiful, like character studies.
Now here's number 4. Number 4, great movie. I really enjoyed rewatching this today. This is We're the Millers, which is a movie that is just, it's fun. It's you know, there's, well, I'll explain the plot to start and then kind of break it down from there. The general plot is you have this character. You have a character played by Jason Sudeikis.
Yes.
I forgot his name. Doesn't matter. Character names don't matter. You got Jason Sudeikis' character.
Who cares about anyone else? Jason Sudeikis.
Jason Sudeikis shows up. He's a drug dealer in this. And the movie kind of starts out, you're introduced to a lot of your other characters you're going to deal with. You have this kid, this 18-year-old boy who lives in the same apartment complex, whose mom has been gone for over a week, just abandoned him. This poor, kind of a loser-looking guy. On the poster there, you might see it says he's a virgin, because that's part of his character arc, is that he's, a loser virgin. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but that's what the story arc is.
Yeah.
You got him. You also are introduced in that to the, Jennifer Aniston's character, whose name is Rose. I remember her name.
Yeah.
You got Rose. Oh, he also, Nerd Boy, his name is Kenny.
Yeah, Kenny. Played by Will Poulter.
Yes. Who's shockingly British in real life. It's one of those really weird ones when you hear them talk.
Yeah, because he always plays American characters.
He plays an American so well, and he's not. Which is a lot of, British actors can do a great job playing American. But that's a side note. So then we're introduced to Rose, who actually, her real name isn't Rose. You find that out later, but that's a whole different thing. Not important. You got Rose, who is played by Jennifer Aniston, who is a stripper. And then you also have, pretty early on in the movie, you have Emma Roberts' character. Right name? That's the right name, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Emma Roberts.
Okay. There's too many Emmas in Hollywood, so I couldn't remember if that was the right name for a second there.
She is Casey Mathis.
She is Casey, yes. Emma is like she's a runaway, as it says on the screen. She's one of those, kids who choose to be homeless because they hate their parents. Yeah, they just, choose to run away and be homeless, even though they didn't have to be. They have a home. So she's getting, So early on, she's getting, mugged, and Kenny wants to go save her because, he's a little nerd loser boy, so he wants to, try to, win over a girl.
White knight.
Yeah. He's got that white knight syndrome, And obviously, Kenny is not going to get it done at all. There's no chance. So Jason Sudeikis' character, who I don't remember his name, he goes over to
find out.
Yeah. He goes over to try to save Kenny and them, and ends up fighting off these thugs for a little bit until he eventually gets caught by them, and they steal all of his weed, all of his money. And that's kind of where the main part of the plot starts. Now, after that little intro happens, is, sorry, brain froze there. I gave myself too much media today, and now I'm trying to remember back to this one. This file. Okay, yeah. So then, he goes to talk to his drug distributor, I guess you could call him. It's the guy above him, who is played by Ed Helms. Ed Helms does a wonderful job playing that character.
It's
Ed Helms always does. Everyone in this movie is perfectly cast. Everyone.
Yeah.
So many of these people are so, do such a good job in this. Ed Helms, kind of to make up for the money and weed that he lost, tells Jason Sudeikis' character. Have you found the name yet?
Yeah, David Clark.
David. He tells David to go and, hey, you're going to have to go to Mexico and basically be a drug mule for me to make up for this. You're going to go get this smidge of weed, as he calls it.
Just a smidge.
And then...
Just an inch.
Yeah, just a smidge. Maybe smidge and a half, as I believe one of the lines in that early scene. And, David, Jason Sudeikis' character, he decides, he had no choice, really. It was either that or, getting killed, basically. So he's going to go be a drug mule. So he kind of was he's talking to Kenny about it, because Kenny's his only friend. And he's like talking to him, and like, there's these people who drive by in like an RV, and like this cop, and they're parked in the wrong area, and this cop just lets him go, and he realizes, oh, that's it. That's how I can, get across the border. I have to pretend to be a family. So he builds up his little group. He gets, the runaway girl, Casey. He gets, good old stripper, Rose, Jennifer Aniston's character, and he's got, Kenny's not doing anything better. His mom left him, so.
Might as well be his son.
Yeah. So they go off and they, go down to Mexico, and, comedy hijinks ensue. It's fun. Like, after that, it's just a fun movie. Like, there's some twists, some turns that I don't want to fully get into because it won't help me describe the movie any better. But, like, it's just after that, they go down to Mexico to get the drugs, which does turn out to be, I want to say it's supposed to be like 2 tons of weed. So, not a smidge. A little bit
more than what one might call a smidge, or a smidge and a half, really.
2 tons of weed they have to cram into literally every possible compartment or area on their RV. I believe they even replaced like one of their mattresses with just weed.
Yeah.
And then it's just funny. Like there's once again, just like what?
But yeah.
Oh, Chris's internet went out, but that's fine. I'm gonna keep talking. Once again, this just like number 5 on my list. This is one of those movies that shows how funny it was, is how much it's been memed. I'm sure everyone has seen the meme of like, oh, you're getting paid this much, I'm getting paid this much, and then you have Kenny there with like, well, you guys are getting paid. So like, there's another scene that I remember.
Yeah, hello, I'm back.
Yeah, I was just talking about how memeable this movie is. I don't know if you heard any of it, but this movie is just quite. There was a lot of big memes from this movie. You got the one I just mentioned, and you also have like the guy with the no regrets tattoo that's spelled wrong. Like those are 2 like iconic images that get reposted on the internet all the time, and it's because this movie is just so well written and comedic that you can take clips like that and run with it. And now I'm gonna kind of banter, hoping that Chris's internet comes back because I'm done talking about this movie. All right. This might get cut from the final podcast. Probably not, though, because I'm lazy. But yeah, We're the Millers. It's a great movie. Great. Just great. Really funny. Okay.
Hello?
Okay, cool. We're going to move on now. I even talked about how I might cut that, but probably not because I'm lazy. So let's move on.
Okay.
Number 3. Oh, this movie's great. This next movie is The Edge of 17.
Yeah, I haven't seen this one.
That's fair. I feel like most people haven't. It's just, it's so good. I watched it last night with my parents, actually. And they both loved it, so, it's apparently good. Or at least liked it. I don't know if loved is, whatever.
Yeah.
So the basic idea of this movie is it's very, it's very like that indie dramatic comedy movie. Like if you like Juno, you'll probably like this movie. It's that indie dramatic comedy, coming of age, especially like that kind of like high school problems kind of movie. But like well done. Like that sounded very like I'm under explaining like the possible quality of it. But yeah, Edge of 17. The basic gist of the plot is you have I'm not remembering any of these characters' names. This was yesterday. I've watched 4 other movies since. You got the main character, Haley Steinfeld, that's the actress. The character's name. Oh, I know this. I don't. It doesn't matter. Chris, pull it up.
All right, here I am, resource man.
Yeah, Chris is here. Pulling things up for me because I'm stupid and don't write things down. Next time I will write stuff down so I do a little bit better job.
Hacking it into the mainframe. Hold on.
But yeah, so like this movie, it's one of those like, just like Juno is a great example of like a movie like, if you like Juno, I genuinely think you're going to like this movie. It's that kind of movie. It's a little bit
Nadine.
How could I forget a name that weird?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you got Nadine. The basic plot is Nadine, she's an awkward kid. She's always been awkward. She has one friend. Her name is Krista. Krista and her, they've been friends for a while, since they were I think 5th grade or something great like that, and now they're both juniors in high school. She's awkward, it's her only friend, and Krista, they both get drunk one night, and Krista hooks up with Nadine's brother, who's cool, handsome, he's a jock, everybody loves him, so Nadine hates him, and now she feels she feels broken because her best friend basically, in her mind, chose her brother over her. So now, you kind of go from there, just kind of stuff happens, I'm trying to think of how to explain the plot after that, then, she, tells a boy that she likes him very awkwardly, and basically tells him that she wants to, do very sexual things to him, but through a, Facebook Messenger, she typed it out, was I'm not going to send this, and then sent it, and this guy, he's kind of, maybe questionable, the kind of guy for her to be with, and, he sees a message like that, and is cool, this girl wants to be with me, so he, goes with her, and it doesn't turn out great. She chooses, she decides she doesn't want to be with him. He doesn't go too far, but he definitely is very angry that she led him on. I think Chris is gone again, but it's okay, because Chris doesn't have to be here for me to explain this movie to y'all. There's also another character that, I don't remember his name. He's a really... There's a nice boy that she meets throughout the movie, who she kind of doesn't care about. He's kind of awkward, too, and it's kind of weird, her being awkward, but it feels like she judges him a little bit, doesn't accept him as a possibility because he's awkward for a lot of the movie. Without spoiling it, which I'm going to, because it's obvious where this movie is going. She ends up making up with her best friend, realizing that her, it didn't really matter. She falls in love with the nerdier guy, because it's kind of a generic plot in that sense. But it's just done so well. There are probably 50 other movies that tell this type of story, but none of them tell it as well as this movie tells it. Also, I didn't even mention it, but he's a character that is throughout the whole movie, is her teacher, who's played by Woody Harrelson, who is just the most lovable jerk to her throughout the whole movie. It's, he's really funny. A lot of the comedy comes from his interactions with Nadine. And that's about all I want to say on Edge of 17. But Chris is gone. I really hope Chris gets new internet before next week. Ooh. Chris full on had to leave the Discord. Ooh. Is he back?
Hey, I'm here.
Okay. I talked about Edge of 17 without you. So,
okay.
We're just going to move on.
Fair enough. Right.
But I'll
give that. My internet is absolute doo-doo.
I mentioned how I hope that, you get new internet before our next stream. Hopefully it happens.
Yeah, I am literally connected to my phone's hotspot right now.
All right, hopefully that helps.
Big oof. Big old fat oof.
But, I'll do it ever so slight repeating. I said this is a very kind of... You could argue slightly generic plot. You can kind of see where everything's going, but they do it better than anything else I've seen. It's kind of my joke.
Yeah,
and
it's executed better.
Yeah, it's all the characters are great. Specifically, I mentioned to them, but I'll mention to you because it might sell you on this movie. Woody Harrelson plays her lovable jerk teacher, who's one of her only friends throughout the movie because she's on the outs with Krista, so she has her one teacher who's the only person she talks to really. And he's great. It's a great movie.
Do you love?
I definitely didn't give this movie a good enough description. It's great. It's one of my favorite movies. My number 3, to be specific.
And now for your number 2.
Number 2, which wasn't I'm gonna preface before I even show it. This was not number 2 on my original list. This was number, I think, 4 or 5. But then after rewatching them the last day, I realized how much I loved this movie. And that's Big Daddy.
Big Daddy.
It's an Adam Sandler classic. Which, here's the thing. I'm going to come out and say it. Adam Sandler, up until Click, was great. That man has 8 great movies, pretty much all from the 90s. but they were great. Everything since, questionable. But those...
I will agree to disagree with you on that. But I will agree he did have some really good hits in the 90s. I don't know if I'd say everything that he did was great.
I didn't say everything. I just think most of it was good. Like,
yeah.
But the point is, it doesn't matter if most of them good. The only one that matters is
Mr. Deeds.
Yeah. Oh, you got Happy Gilmore, Billy Madison. Yeah, both those two movies.
The same movie.
Yeah, well, they're not. And then you have
not
Click, and that's about it. Those are the movies he made that were good. But those movies are all really good.
I went back and watched Click, and it's one of those ones that doesn't hold up,
really?
similar to Clerks 2.
I haven't watched Click in a long time, so I will stand that. Here's the thing, Click didn't make my list, so let's not talk about Click. I watched Big Daddy yesterday, or today. No, I think I watched it last night. It doesn't matter. Big Daddy's great. It's heartwarming. If you like Adam Sandler from the 90s, it's Adam Sandler from the 90s. But the story around it is really good. If you don't like Adam Sandler from the 90s, you're not going to like this movie. Adam Sandler does the thing where, he yells because he's Adam Sandler. I get it. If that's not your thing, I understand. I can enjoy that, and it's the right character. This character, which the character here is... Oh, I don't remember. That was yesterday. It doesn't matter.
All right.
Yeah,
I'm on it.
Chris is going to look it up. Adam Sandler's character, he's a
Big father.
He's a law school graduate who never took the bar exam. He is, just kind of... Sonny is just kind of living life. He, got his foot ran over by a cab, I think 2 or 3 years before the movie took place. I don't remember, they say, but it doesn't really matter. And he spent one night in the hospital and now made like $2 million off of the city or something like that in like a lawsuit. So he's living off of that. And, he's living his life. He's got his roommate and his roommate's girlfriend who hates Sonny because Sonny is... In the beginning of this movie, Sonny is a screw-up. He is a loser. He works 1 day a week at...
He's living off of lawsuit money. I mean...
He's working 1 day a week as like a toll clerk. Like at a toll booth. Like he's not doing much with his life. And, he's also a jerk a lot at the beginning of the movie. Because, once again, it's an Adam Sandler movie, so he's normally kind of a jerk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the jerk redemption arc.
Yeah, because that's the story he tells. But, once again, the thing that I think... It's the heart of this movie that takes it above that. I stopped telling about the plot and started telling why I liked it when I should tell the plot real quick. This is the first episode, guys. It might get better. It might not. We'll see. But this episode, I'm sorry.
We'll see. Yeah, as per usual, we are sorry.
Yeah. Whoa.
Go on.
Yeah. So, what was that? So his roommate, he's leaving. He's going to China for business. So, the next day after... Is
his roommate played by Rob Schneider?
No, Rob Schneider plays the delivery guy who's his friend.
Yeah.
Questionable role because Rob Schneider is playing an ethnic role that he is not. Some things don't hold up. Welcome to... It's the sad part of watching... that's one of the things that happens when you watch old comedies. Parts of them don't hold up.
1990s comedies.
Yeah. There's another part there's another part I'll address. There is 2 characters that are gay, which, for the most part, they honestly really kind of treat it in a very, like, accepting, woke way in, like, in 99, which is not normal. Adam Sandler seems Adam Sandler's character, Sonny, seems very, very supportive of his friends. But there is one character that they also made who brings up how he's uncomfortable with it at least 2 or 3 times in the movie. So it's like this weird thing where the most of the movie feels really like accepting and welcoming and, inclusive. But then there's this one character who's not. And that's
Which
really...
maybe, like, their whole goal was to make that character unlikable and be like, hey, this...
honestly, that was his only character trait.
Isn't okay.
Yeah, because that was his only character trait. That other character did, like, nothing else except for make faces when they did gay things. It was weird. Yeah. It's of the times. Is it perfect? No. But, so back to...
Yeah, most comedy movies, gonna say.
A lot of them don't...
Not perfect.
And a lot of them don't end up holding up fully after they're made. Because times we get more, we realize the errors of our ways as a society and certain things that were maybe more acceptable at the time aren't anymore. This movie has some of that, not enough that I feel like it diminishes the movie as being good. Unlike Clerks 2, which is the movie that was supposed to be on this list until I started watching it earlier today and realized it's trash.
Yeah.
But yeah, so roommate leaves, goes to China, and the little kid shows up, little Julian, who is played by the Sprouse twins. In the old,
both Dylan and
in the
Sprouse.
old movie magic of where they switch out in different scenes. You got the Sprouse twins. They show up. Their character's name is Julian. He's, a little 5-year-old kid. He's super adorable. And he's there because he's the roommate's son. His mom died of cancer. Sorry to get dark there for a second, but yeah, that's the story. This kid has nowhere to go. And so
I like getting dark.
Yeah, so Sonny, is like, he just went out to China. I can't. We gotta send this kid to social services so he can go to the foster home. But it's Columbus Day, so it's closed. So on that day, he just spends the day with the kid and kind of starts like enjoying hanging out with this kid and like having purpose in his life. And so then it kind of goes on where he eventually goes to them. He ends up lying, saying that he's the roommate Kevin. He's not the roommate Kevin, but he says he is, and he eventually, keeps this lie going, lying to social services. It's a really cute, fun movie. He meets this girl, because of course, when in doubt, a character has to meet a woman in a comedy movie, has to fall in love with them. Adam Sandler can't not fall in love with a pretty girl.
No, of course not.
So he meets this girl, who's actually the sister of roommate's girlfriend, who hates him. What? Oh, wow, crazy, right? I'm not doing that part
no.
justice. But the point is, it's a very generic plot if you look at it on paper. But just the heart of the movie is why I love this. Like, Julian is the Sprouse twins. Maybe it's, I don't know if they're even acting or if they were just, cute kids. But they pull off that, like, cute kid who wants a father really well in this movie. And, watching Sonny, even though it's a generic, jerk becomes good story, Adam Sandler can act when he wants to. And this is one of those movies where he shows actual, like, emotion and range. Like, when he loses Julian because, he was a liar and technically did not deserve to have Julian because he lied, pretended to be someone he wasn't, completely illegal and wrong,
Yeah.
He is heartbroken, and you can see the heartbreak, and like it's a good movie. There's also, it's also an Adam Sandler movie, so guess what? There's balls jokes, of course there is.
Yeah, which is Adam Sandler movies typically don't make my top, but I do enjoy some of his older stuff.
That's fair. Here's the thing, I get it. Adam Sandler is definitely a polarizing figure, especially his later work, but even his earlier work, it's not perfect, and I get that. But this movie, the reason why this movie made the list, not one of those other movies, is the heart. And like, I always remembered liking this movie. And here's the thing: I think this movie was supposed to be like number 5 on my list initially. And then I watched it, and I was like, oh, I love this movie. I laughed a ton. It made me happy, and that's what comedy movies are supposed to do. So
made me happy, made me smile.
Yeah, it was a good movie. It's a good movie, is the point. The point is, if somehow you haven't seen Big Daddy, go watch it. Or don't. I don't really care.
Yeah. I guess that could be said of any of the movies we've seen.
A lot of these movies, especially my top 3, I think are great movies that I think everyone should watch at least once in their life. If they don't, I don't really care, though. It's your choice. Whatever.
That's fair.
All right, let's go on to my number 1 movie.
All right,
Boom.
Let's do it.
It's Adventureland.
Woo!
Another one of those movies. It's, that indie dramedy. It kind of feels, in some aspects, like a coming-of-age movie, but it's not, because the characters are definitely supposed to be in early college. Yeah. But I also kind of feel like there's an element of they made these characters college-age just so they could justify all the drinking and drugs without having to make people wonder about it, question it. What are you doing?
I'm going to pee my pants. Continue talking. I'll be right back.
All right. So, yeah. Jeez. So, yeah, Adventureland. It's a really fun movie. It, kind of... The general gist is there's this character whose name is James, played by Jesse Eisenberg, who, his character is just finished, I believe, journalism school and is trying to transfer into grad school, I believe. But and his parents though he's supposed to go on this trip to Europe, but his parents, I think his dad loses his job or gets transferred to a lower paying job in the same company, something of that nature. So he now doesn't have money to go on this trip to Europe and might not be able to afford to move to New York to go to grad school. So he gets a job at the local amusement park, Adventureland. And it's just after that, it just gets to the point where the plot is just kind of he falls in love with this girl, Emily, played by Kristen Stewart, who does that one role Kristen Stewart knows how to do, but she does it really well. She plays kind of that stoic, barely there girl, but it fits this character. They wrote it to play that character, so it works. And just there's a lot of fun little side characters. You got Bill Hader and Kristen Wiig, who play a married couple who run the theme park. They're definitely the funniest characters. They're definitely the characters that are going to make you laugh the most. This is definitely a comedy, but it is definitely one of those comedies that is barely a comedy. So much of this movie, I enjoy it and I enjoy being in it, and that's why it's number one, is because it's beautiful and it's great. But it's not like a laugh out loud, haha, so funny comedy. It's kind of just you're with these characters and you kind of fall in love with a lot of them in their own ways and their quirks and who they are. And then general plot synopsis, you have him and Emily, who he's working with, they fall in love, but she's also seeing Ryan Reynolds' character. I don't remember his name. It really doesn't matter. He's this guy he's the repair guy for the machines at the park. He's married though, so she's with this married guy, and also starting to kind of be with Jesse Eisenberg's character James, and he finds out, that's really kind of the main plot, is just kind of that, he finds out, then they eventually make up at the end of the movie. But it's one thing I will say after watching this, I watched it today, that I didn't remember, what I think this movie does better than anything else is, the main characters really kind of screw up. She screws up by, sleeping with this married man and behind the guy she's kind of dating's back. And, he tells a bunch of people, he tells one person, ends up telling everyone, and ends up kind of ruining her life. And both characters have those kind of, flaws. And unlike so many movies where, when they make up, they just kind of ignore, they don't pretend like those flaws went away. They still let them be kind of these broken characters and don't try to fix the brokenness. They have a happy ending, but it's a happy ending of still being two broken people, if that makes sense. It might not. That's fine. The point is, I love this movie. It's definitely the least laugh out loud comedic movie on my list, but also it's just great. I don't know what else to say. Every character in it's great. This is the example of that movie I was talking about earlier, where Ryan Reynolds' character is kind of a jerk, kind of not a good person, yet he's Ryan Reynolds, so you still don't hate him. Even after everything, even after he loses his marriage, and and there's also the element of which once again it's not the normal story you have here. It doesn't feel like he's taking advantage of M in their relationship. It does feel like two adults making a wrong choice, not look at this guy who's making her do it, When she says she wants to be done, he completely accepts it. He doesn't try to, say, hey, no, he's which part of what maybe makes the character feel slightly more redeemable is he just kind of feels like another not good person. A lot of the characters aren't great people, but I don't know. Yeah. I'm probably not explaining this well, but
it's a character. Yeah. So I remember the movie. I do like Adventureland a lot. Is a drama movie. It honestly is a drama movie. It'd probably make my top 5. But the characters, they're it doesn't feel like there's a clear cut necessarily antagonist.
Yeah.
You know, there's not a character that, oh, you know, this person has no irredeemable qualities. It's just people.
Yeah.
Just broken people interacting in like in a very believable world.
Yeah, like I feel like normally the Ryan Reynolds character would be more of the villain.
Yeah.
I think of like another kind of like that dramatic comedy style movie, like Juno, the like surrogate father is the bad guy of that movie, and like very much so. It's, you know, like he's taking advantage. There's no taking advantage here, and it feels like normally there would be.
Yeah.
Which is, once again, maybe it's part of why, you know, like the characters are aged up. This isn't some like kid making a mistake. This is an adult who's made it through part of college at least, who's choosing to do a bad thing. Sure, it's not good to sleep with a married person. I'm not claiming that, but like, and then at the end, but I was saying though, but I'm rambling here, but that's fine.
Fine. It's a podcast.
Yeah, it's a podcast. We're supposed to ramble a little bit. Yeah. Ryan Reynolds' character, there's a like scene closer to the end, very very end of the movie, where Jesse Eisenberg's character like asks him if he's seen, you know, Kristen Stewart's character, and he's like, nah, and just. But that scene feels like two people who don't hate each other, even though you would think they should. And so much in like television and movies, they normally would push these guys have to hate each other and be enemies, but like Ryan Reynolds, besides being a cheater on his wife, was
besides
a good
being
guy.
Kind of a scumbag.
It's like here's the other thing. It's not like the character, him and Kristen Stewart's character started hooking up while Jesse Eisenberg started. They were already in a wrong relationship before Jesse Eisenberg even showed up. Yeah. So like it's weird. There's so much of this movie where like you feel like it should be doing something else, but it doesn't, and that's really nice that it's different. Yeah.
There's these very clear-cut expectations that, you know, most rom-coms have set up for you, that you expect to be kind of fulfilled, but then it subverts your expectations by delivering a lot more realistic.
Yeah,
every
character in this, except for maybe, you know, Bill Hader and Kristen Wiig, feel
fair enough,
because they're very much there as just straight up comedic relief, and like they do a great job at it.
Yeah.
But for the most part, these characters all feel real. They all feel flawed.
Yeah.
And they all have their flaws, but they still feel like people that like overall you might want to hang out with. Like they're good people. They seem like underlining. Even Ryan Reynolds, who's the worst character, if you could argue, still feels like a guy you wouldn't mind hanging out with, as long as, you know, you weren't his wife who was cheated on. You know.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, it's nice that a movie. It's a weird movie, like you said. There's no real antagonist. Just situations that are the situations are the antagonists, not any people. I like it. It's great. It's definitely the least comedy on my list, but still, you watch and you're like, no, this is a comedy. I can see it, but it's definitely a very dramatic comedy, and I love it. It's my favorite movie, and that
concludes Route 5. Top 5 comedy movies.
That's 5. That's number 5.
Yeah.
That's Kentucky Route 5. Thank you for tuning in.
If you're watching this on YouTube and you hate our choices for our top 5 comedy movies, please let us know why we're wrong.
Yeah, let us know in the comments why we're wrong. And, you know, if you love this podcast, tell a friend. If you hate this podcast, tell an enemy. We'll take them. Yeah. It's cool. Punish them. Punish them by sending them to us.
That's right.
Yeah. So thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next week where we talk about something else.
Yeah.